Okay, I hate to break it to you, but at the end of the day, social democracy is not enough. And I'm just going to cut the bullshit and just explain what I mean by that. Social democracy is not enough when it comes to socialism. So, take the idea of capitalism, of private enterprise, right? Corporations, right? And what social democracy is and what people like AOC and Bernie Sanders advocate for. So, Bernie and AOC advocate for things like workers' protections, workers' rights, um, Medicare for all, things like that. The reason why social democracy, in my view, is not enough is because imagine, right, you're building a bridge, right? But instead of actually taking the time to fully build that bridge, you just keep building, well, it keeps falling, and you keep building, well, it keeps falling and building and building. Well, the bridge is collapsing behind you. You keep protecting the bridge, even though there's no solid foundation or core. So while the bridge keeps falling, you just keep putting up walls and barriers and blockers to protect it. Well, then those exact barriers and blockers that you meant to protect the bridge fall. And it's just this never-ending cycle. And in my view, that's what social democracy is. And why, even though, I don't disagree with Bernie and AOC, for example, I think we should do more, right? You can sit there and you can give people health care. You can give people cheap groceries. You can give people all these great things that will help them, that will make their lives easier. But at the end of the day, you're still not fixing the main problem, which is the system of capitalism. And it's in the name, capitalism. Putting capital and putting money above everything else on a hierarchy. All these companies, at the end of the day, are for profit. That's their mechanism and that's their purpose. Their purpose is to generate money. Their purpose is to make sure that their shareholders, at the end of each yearly earning call, are satisfied. And it's their job to do that by any means necessary. And so when you do not have, for example, programs or systems like that China has, right? Or Cuba, for example, where a lot of their industries are not competing against each other. Like, yes, you can have private sectors. I don't think the private sector is a bad thing. But for national industries that affect the country and the globe, for example, like mining or looking for rare earth minerals that go into technology production or space travel or advancing the space race, whatever, right? Things like that that have an effect on not only individuals but everybody as a whole. Like it's not fucking production of like patches, right? It's not, oh, can we monopolize patching or making patches for people? It's like building or healthcare, shit like that. Those things, in my view, should be controlled by the state to make sure that no monopolies arise and that people are not gouged out due to their income or social status or caste, right? Like what you have in the modern American healthcare system, where if you're not rich enough and if you don't have enough money, or if they don't think you're gonna live long enough, or if you're not a good person for a kidney transplant, for example, you're just gonna have to sit there on the list forever. Well, if you're wealthier, if you have more access to resources, then they're like, sure, you know what, this guy's a good client. We're just not gonna give the guy who is doing everything right the fucking kidney. We're gonna give it to the guy who has the money and who has the access, because, hey, they could be a good return on investment. Or the other guy, we don't know if he's going to live even if we do give him the transplant. So, fuck him. We're going to give the rich guy the fucking help first. And the healthcare system is just really emblematic of what for-profit industries do, where if you don't have insurance, like 32.3, I could be wrong, but I know it's around 31 to 35% of Americans that aren't insured. You end up having a system where because it's for profit, an entire section of the American populace don't have access to a basic human right like healthcare, which is disgusting and despicable. And that's the problem with capitalism. It's for profit. It's in the name. Capital. It's capital. People are not prioritized. Capital is. And there's a second part to this equation. The second part of this equation on why social democracy is not enough. And social democracy, like the Bernie Krats and AOC, they do sit there and they do alleviate the means of the national populace, which then just equates to nationalism and advancing the national struggle. But what they fail to look at is what America has done abroad in the Middle East, creating forever wars, and what we've done to the global south, and Africa as well. Basically, what America has done since its inception with the genocide of the natives and now the genocide in Palestine, right? Continually going out of their way, and even in the golden age when there was a wealth tax on the 1%, total wealth tax at 98%, I think 97 or 98%, you still had those social programs from the New Deal that still redlined black and brown folks so they couldn't get that. Or completely, while there was the New Deal, we were still exploiting the global south in Afghanistan and in the banana republics in El Salvador and in the south, right? To get oil from the Middle East, to extract resources for fucking banana corporations, right? In Latin American countries, because at the end of the day, even though the populace in the golden age, which was the 1950s, supposedly, according to conservatives, we still had exploitation of the Middle East, Africa, and the South, whether it was oil or whether it was the banana republics, for just two examples. And if you don't know, around that time, even though we had the robust social programming, right, where people could get access to healthcare at cheaper rates, where there were jobs programs or public works programs, right, where we had all of that, where we had a VA that actually worked for veterans. We had all those great things. It was, I believe, the most public housing we ever had in America that was built. But while we had all those great things from the New Deal, the South and the poorest people on the planet were still being exploited by American foreign policy abroad. And that's the problem with social democracy. You can give everybody in the country respite from the horrors of capitalism, but at the end of the day, everybody else and the rest of humanity is left out. And that's why I don't think that social democracy is enough. I think socialism is the answer. Because at the end of the day, that structure, that internal structure of capitalism and exploitation is still there. It's still at the core of everything. And that makes like the bridge example, you keep building the bridge, building the bridge, building the bridge, while the bridge is falling behind you and the world falls into the pit of darkness and despair. In this hypothetical kind of corny example, just to drive home the point. But I guess to summarize, excuse me, social democracy is not enough because it does not address foreign policy while only addressing domestic policy. And I think that eventually, even though we do address national policy under social democracy that does help everyone, so to speak, at least for a while, you still have to contend with private interess. And all it takes is for a far-right authoritarian power to come into play and basically use that socialism and those social programs that are set up to basically fuck it up and give people treats while they do fascism and start doing pogroms and genociding people like what we saw in World War II. So, yeah. Social democracy is not enough. We need socialism.